You did not send your Son into the world to condemn it, but rather that through him the world would be saved. As we commence this program this evening, O God, may we strive to draw closer to you, who sacrificed your only Son, so that we who believe will have eternal life. Humble us today, Father, that we may follow your example of sacrificial love in our interactions with our brothers and sisters. May we, who have been saved by an act of love, be willing to lose our own lives in the service of love for others. So, Father, we bring to you today our empty nets of doubts and despair, empty nets of hatred and resentment, empty nets of resistance and rebellion, emptiness that speak to all the weaknesses that exist within us. More than vision, Lord, give us sight, to God, that we may recognize your presence among us. More than the ability to hear, give us discerning ears attentive to your voice. And give each of us a heart that will never get weary of waiting for you. I pray your blessings on this great party, the United Workers' Party, that it will continue to stand as a beacon of hope for the nation. I pray you bless the political leader, bless the president, bless the deputy leader, bless all the members of this great team. May your words be on the lips of the host as well this evening, and also on the lips of the guests. O Holy Spirit, may your light shine on this program tonight. In Jesus' name I ask it all. Amen. Be Lord. Let's get together and be Lord. Whoa. Let's have my back falling. Dirty river. One Lord. There is one question I'd really love to ask. Is there a place for those who bless sinners, who has all mankind? Just David don't believe. Let's get together and be Lord. It wasn't the beginning. One love. Yeah. All right. Praise the Lord. And I will be Lord. Let's get together and be Lord. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. When the night comes, there will be no doom. Pitching on those whose chances grow 10. There is no hiding place from the Father of creation. Yeah. One about the one. Let's get together and be alright. I'm saying to mankind. If that's the Lord, then I will be alright. Be alright. Whoa. Let them back falling. Dirty river. There is one question I'd really love to ask. Is there a place for those who bless sinners, who has all mankind? Just David don't believe. What about let's get together and be Lord? Wasn't the beginning? So on every first day, special guest with us this evening. Be Lord. Let's get together and be Lord. Continue talking agriculture. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. When the night comes, there will be no doom. Pitching on those whose chances grow 10. There is no hiding place
from the Father of creation. Yeah, yeah. One about the one. Let's get together and feel alright. I'm saying to mankind, if that's the best in the Lord, then I will feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. That's the best in the Lord, feel the Lord, I will feel alright. Get together and feel alright. Hear the children crying. Hear the children crying. Saying, give thanks, and I will feel alright. Saying, let's get together and feel alright. Oh, oh, oh. Let them have back all the dirty remarks. There is one question I really love. Is there a place for all hopeless sinners who has all mankind? Just David don't believe. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Workers' Voice. This evening we have with us, and just before we get into the official introduction, let me again acknowledge our political leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine. In studio with us is Mr. Errol Emmanuel. And of course, we want to acknowledge the entire executive of the United Workers' Party and audit members. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Of course, Dominica by and large diaspora. Welcome to the Workers' Voice today, this evening. We're going to continue to look at agriculture, to make agriculture a fundamental pillar in Dominica. And with us this evening, we have the man, Mr. Emmanuel, with us, Errol Emmanuel, agriculturalist, well, an expert, I would say, in every single aspect of the economy, and of course, more so agriculture. And he's well, versed in, and he will be our special guest this evening. So, welcome everyone. Of course, we also have with us the man Soso Ferrozo. Thank you for being with us, Soso Ferrozo, another well-sound gentleman and well versed in the agricultural field. Thank you for being here this evening. Of course, we want to take this opportunity to thank all those that are tuned in to this wonderful station, Q95, and thank you for being part of this wonderful program this evening. And we have Dr. Fontaine is there. We would now call on Soso to say a few words.
Yes, good evening to our listeners. Good evening to everyone. Especially particular to those in Rosa Central constituency. Good night to you. And let me say to all our listeners listening here, both here and abroad, via the various medium on various media platforms. I want to say tonight it sounds like we are moving forward nicely, and like anything else, we just want to say to the good Lord, thank you for this day. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Well, for those who have had loved ones left them, you know that the good Lord is always a good Lord. He doesn't do things without knowing that we suffer. So the good Lord maketh, and also the good Lord taketh. And so for those who are going through some daunting in their lives, we want to pray God's blessing upon you. Let me say extend sympathies to the Scotland family on the passing of Sharks, Philip, as I know him, good guy, and like anything else, he was alien, but he has succumbed now. And so to the families, we extend, condolences to you. And let me just say, it's a nice spirit there tonight. And let me say good night to our political leader and to the executive of this wonderful party. And as you know, normally before we go into the meat of our program, we always have to touch on some, up to date issues, current issues. And I know the political leader is there. We would like to talk something about the abattoir because we have been hearing so many good things about the
For
abattoir
sure, for
lately
sure.
on the other radio station. There's nothing wrong about talking about it, but we know some of the deficiencies that exist. We're not merely going to oppose anything. We are more going to react to some of the things that have been said, and we want to give Dominicans a better perspective as it relates to what exists. And so I want to say I'm very happy to be part of this panel tonight. And I'm very honored to be, amongst the great men, who are in studios tonight. And, Dr. Thompson, I want to say thank you for your continued participation, notwithstanding you're the other side of the globe. I'm seeing you just about 3 feet away from me. I can even touch you right now. So I know that you are alive and well. So let me just say to our listeners, tune in and let us get rolling. But before that, Blue, I know that your production is coming up. So I will be having a few samples in your backyard garden. So don't if you miss 2 or 3 of the first 3 fruits pick, that is me. I'm telling you straight. I'm not condoning pretty larceny, but you will allow me to take at least 2 or 3 of your tomatoes. So that's a problem. And let me just say to Freddie and Rosalind in Canada and all of our listeners, let me just say hello to you, welcome, and do participate. Do participate. We need your participation to let this program be great. Thank you, Mr. Charles, for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, so. I know we'll just hear some brief remarks from our guest this evening, Mr. Emmanuel. This is some brief remarks. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Ronald. Good evening to the political leader of the United Workers' Party, the president, and the executive. And let me thank the party for thinking that much of me to invite me to speak on the subject. Um, I will not boast, but I think I have had sufficient exposure in that sector, and I can say something that might just add some value to the process of agricultural development. So tonight we will talk agriculture. It is something that sometimes is treated as a bastard child, but given the immense blessings that we have from God, very good rainfall, an abundance of water, rivers, and good soil types, we just have to get the people convinced and be willing to grow.
Soil
And we
types.
will be a solid people as far as self-sufficiency in terms of producing our own food and having excess for exports.
Yes, thank you so much. And Dr. Thompson Fontaine, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, of course, we want some brief remarks from you.
Well, good night, Deputy Political Leader Ronald Charles, the same Ronald Charles, and good evening to you, and of course, So
Yes.
Emmanuel in studio, and of course to our other guests, Steve, our PRO, who is not there with us tonight, and Lambi. Lambi, is good to see you as well, and to our many listeners, to the Q family, and all of you that are tuned in tonight, the executive of the United Workers' Party, the rank and file of our party, and all of our supporters at home and overseas. What an honor it is to be with you again as we continue to pursue this important topic of agriculture. The reason why we are so relentless on this is because we firmly believe that agriculture is the way forward for Dominica. There is no doubt in my mind and in the mind of the of Team Dominica that agriculture is the way to go. So we're delighted again to be able to talk about agriculture tonight and to just give you ideas as well as to what we plan to do, as a party to really develop this country, to really take this country forward. Talking of which, by the way, as we talk about development, we are looking forward to this grand um, uh, conference or summit. It's called the Dominica Economic Revival Summit that is now scheduled for June 4th to 6th, and that will take place at the Jungle Bay Resorts. And we are going to start with a dinner and an awards opening ceremony and awards dinner on the 4th, and then we'll have 2 full days of discussing the economy And I want people to be, I want to assure the Dominicans that this is not just going to be a talk shop. We are not just going to be talking intellectually or theories. We are going to be talking practical solutions. We are in the phase of planning. We want to be sure that when you, the people of Dominica, place that confidence in us to be your next government, that we are ready to go on day one. So that's part of our forward planning. We're not going to wait until you've elected us to start thinking, to start planning. We are starting the planning early and carefully. We are getting the experts. We are listening to everybody. We are putting those plans together so that from the time we hit, on day one, we'll be able to execute on your behalf. So that's what this is all about, and I hope that you can join us and be a part of this. And if I could just move on just a little bit about the abattoir. Of course, that should be a part of a good part of the livestock part of what we're seeing. But again, this government has shown just this incredible inability to do anything successfully. I mean, they're not even able to run successfully an abattoir. We've heard of all of the problems that they've gone through, even to the point of wastage and not paying persons and so on, and all of this. And you would think that an abattoir would be at the center of providing a livelihood support for so many people. But the problem is you cannot go into an abattoir without providing support for the farmers. You must have this ability for the farmers to firstly be able to access feed, because if you're not able to access feed, or if the feed is way too expensive, then whatever price you're able to offer them may not be able to offset the high cost of the feed. So the ability to support the farmers where they're able to get those inputs, get the animal feed, be able to get the medicines, and if it is vaccine, whatever it is that they have to do to have a healthy livestock or poultry that they can sell to the abattoir. That has to be done, So that is something that, we certainly have to look at. And I get the impression that this abattoir has been a haphazard type of thing. It was not well thought out. And hence the issues that we're having now. And then, surprise, surprise, another abattoir on the way, and you know what has happened to the first abattoir. So that is something I believe that we really can do better with. There is obviously a very good market for poultry, a very good market for for livestock and so on, for beef and meat and pork and so on. And of course, we should be looking to export this. Any abattoir in Dominica should be looking beyond just the 60,000 people in Dominica. We should be looking to the market in the region where we have several millions of people. So I would really like to see so that we really focus a bit more on looking at this as a way, as I said, of one, empowering our small farmers, giving them the support that they need, and ensuring that they get the right price once it comes to that. But beyond that, we have to look to expand the abattoir into the export market.
Let's get together. The PRO is on. The PRO is on with us. Of course, Mr. Steve Benjamin. Steve Benjamin, your opening remarks. Thank you.
Yes, let me say good evening to our supporters, Dominicans at home and abroad. You would imagine that, seeing that we have been leading on the agricultural sector. I just came from a meeting in Wesley, hosted by the PAL rep, where we had about 4 banks, credit union, trying to invite people, force people, suggest to people to take loan to revive the agricultural sector. But how can you revive the agricultural sector when not a single irrigation system is operational? So in the drought, they cannot find produce. You have Dexia boasting that they got $5 million from government, so they have money to buy food, but there is no food because government abandoned the planting and banana subsector. So there is no planting, very little planting. So it's a vai approach taken by this administration to take care of agriculture. We are presenting to the Dominican people a different idea, a constructive approach to agriculture to ensure that once again the Dominican people will be able to go into a bank and take a loan as a farmer. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, the colors you can call 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097-616, or the overseas line 30543-29624. You are on with the Workers' Voice this evening with our special guest, Mr. Errol Emmanuel.
And let me just remind our listeners that we still have our raffle going on, the car raffle, that they must do participate. Yesterday I was in the village of Wesley. Two individuals promised to buy 6 tickets, 4 one and 2 the other. So don't forget our car raffle as you go along.
The political leader has touched on the abattoir. Let me just give a little perspective as it relates to the abattoir, because oftentimes we hear. And by the way, I heard on Cairo FM sometime on the other radio station last week that they were boasting of about $4 million that was plowed into the abattoir program. And Dominicans, it's amazing that this money, the government continues to actually waste resources. And by the way, there's nothing wrong about investing money or plowing money into any sector. What I'm saying is that for the past times, the abattoir has been plagued with a number of deficiencies outlined by the audit report. And one of the things that the auditors had concern about is the lack of accountability and transparency with respect to how the abattoir has been operated. The abattoir actually operates with a budget of about $1.5 million, but over the years, they have had a trend where the revenue for such operation has been low compared to the expenditures. I don't really like to give figures because sometimes it appears to be broad, but just to give you an idea as to what I actually took the figures, especially just to give you an idea as to what is happening. Let us just say in the budget of 2017-2018, you heard the revenue that was accrued at the abattoir was about $322,000, but the expenditure was well over $746,000. In 2018-2019, they generated $315,000, but the expenditure was $1.1 million. Well, they do not have any figures in terms of the expenditure for 2019, 2020, and 2021. But as we say, the operative budget of $1.5 million, so we're assuming that they may have spent that money. But let me just show you in 2019, they made about $558,000. It went down in 2020, $475,000. And in 2021, $253,000. What that shows, the trend shows that there is a decline in terms of revenue generated, but they have high expenditure. It shows you straight off the bat that the abattoir is Kool-Aid. It is Kool-Aid before it even starts. So that is one point. Notwithstanding all of this, you had discrepancy with the reporting. And that is why the auditors, the audit people, the audit team recommend that they must get into putting proper accounting systems or management systems in place so that they can account properly for what is happening. Because imagine the abattoir doesn't have a proper inventory system as to what is in right now and what's moved from one place to the next. Right? So that is a big failure for them. In terms of did they say they sell? And the important thing, the operations manager said on the report that the abattoir they sell meat on credit. But the interesting thing, Dominican, they sell meat on credit, but they cannot show. There's no documentary evidence that they do so, and that is one of the concerns that the auditors have with respect to verified. Because you need verification that when you say something, that they will go to look for it, and they say that. One thing that is probably one of the deficiencies that they have as well, if you look at it during the hurricane, they had installed an incinerator where they used to burn the waste and so. that incinerator got damaged, and from since they started operating, they had oil leaks, and so within the immediate vicinity, so that again providing what they call environmental hazard. Ronald, I think you may have a call. And when you have the call, tell me so we can move forward. So we're saying that. So what we're saying is that now, and it was a Spanish company who had actually sourced that incinerator for them, and the problem they have is getting replacement parts because everything is in Spanish and they cannot understand anything that is happening. So I'll continue on that point, but I just wanted to make that point, that brief point there earlier. Yeah.
Caller, you're live.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Charles,
Good evening.
Dr. Fontaine, Mr. Benjamin,
Good night.
Good evening.
Soso Forozo.
Thank you. Good night. Good evening, sir.
I'm very glad to hear the emphasis on agriculture. But I am hearing that they gave to the is it Dexia now? $5 million to put into agriculture. Now, what I don't understand, this government has no solid plan for anything at all in Dominica. Dexia is supposed to be the marketing arm. Is there a plan for marketing of the agricultural produce, or they're waiting until the farmers start producing to start crazily looking for market? Remember, our markets to the north have gone. St. Vincent has taken over that market. So we have to look for new markets. What is the government, what is Dexia doing? Dexia is partly responsible for the demise of whatever agricultural products we were able to salvage out of the demise of the agricultural sector by the Labour Party government. And I want people to remember something. When the Labour Party came to office in 2000, the then Minister for Agriculture, Atherton Mate, toured the various districts. I think there are about 7 districts. He reported that agriculture was in good shape. Not a long time after that recommendation, the same government said agriculture is a has-been industry. And ever since then, they embarked on a process to dismantle the agricultural sector. Now, it is interesting that we must know why. Because the farmers who had now become literally the middle class, the most productive sector of the economy, had to be destroyed. Because who were these farmers? The farmers were the poor people whose children, they were able to send their children to university, build their homes, buy the vehicles, buy cash. Civil servants were known to have said that they had more expensive vehicles than them. And so the process of destroying the agricultural sector, just to destroy a class of the community. They destroyed a class of people, the farmers, who kept a lot of people employed, who kept DCP going. Do not forget, DCP lived and survived on coconut products. Farmers did those. And you know what distresses me most? There were young women who used DCP by picking up their coconuts. These young women packed the coconut themselves, made their copra, and sold to DCP. But all that was destroyed by the subsidiary of the Chinese Communist Party, the Dominica Labour Party. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you. I won't take much more of your time. Good night.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, right now we're going to go, there is another caller on the line. Caller, you're live.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Good evening to you.
Good.
Yes, my parent. A question I would like to ask. I don't know if you all observed that maybe a lot of fuel may be going wrongly tongue or the supermarkets and don't really pay attention. We have a lot of foreign spice in the country and nutmeg. Why is that? What happened to our spice? And our spice and our nutmeg are easy to identify because our spice have a deep red tone to it that's thick and nice. And the spice I seen going around in some supermarkets and even on the roadside sells a kind of thin, flaky, brownish spice, not a earth tone red. And the nutmeg we have here always have got mess. And our nutmeg always have mess. Why? We have got nutmegs and spice trees in Dominica anymore. Can somebody tell me something about that? I'm very much concerned about that. Bye bye.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for calling. Yes, right about now, of course, the caller had asked some question about spice and nutmeg. I know that Dr. Thompson Fountain is into that area, and I know he will he has pronounced some interesting development that he will be looking into for that. But just before we go into that, we have another caller. Caller, you're live. Caller, you're live.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, sir.
Well, my name is Ellsworth Privo.
Mr. Elworth, Ellsworth. Good night.
Yeah, good night. Good night to everyone on the panel.
Good night, sir.
Good.
Have a good night to you.
I have been in agriculture for my entire life since I was a little boy up until now. Even though I teach for a few years, and I have been exporting stuff to St. Kitts, Antigua, and St. Martin, and we are in a dilemma now. That what will happen to us is this: other than on Dominica, now we price ourselves out of the market. The reason why that is that the other competitive countries, what they assist the farmer by giving them duty free on all agricultural products for them to produce. In Dominica, it's very expensive on us. For instance, in St. Vincent, when I talked to my colleague out there, a bag of fertilizer, 2 companies bringing fertilizer into St. Vincent. A bag, 100-pound bag is $110. Another company sell 100-pound bag for $100. In Dominica, you all know the price. It's almost $200 for a 100-pound bag of fertilizer, or $150. All kind of different prices for that. And that is not good for us. I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if you know about the cement bags that have much bags in a cement. I was in St. Martin, and a customer of mine showed me, look, there's a big bag of pumpkin, and that pumpkin came from America into St. Martin, and the man told me he got it for $32 US. So I said, I believe him. I asked him, can you give me the receipt? And he showed me the receipt, and some receipt with me. So we price ourselves on the market, and it's not good for us. And the prices in Dominica is forcing us because of how the government treats the farmers. And it's very expensive to produce. And that also going to cost us a lot to export. I've been in the export business since 1984 up until now. And I have a lot of customers, big customers. I'll give you a little history. As a matter of fact, Dexia left Dominica, went into St. Martin, went to my customers. When they put there, they come and ask, do you know these sellers? I said, what are they? They said Dexia. They said, name is Dexia, they're from Dominica. Well, I tell them that these sellers will try to dominate the market and put us over the oxos in the market, and the price will go high for you all. So you have to be careful with them. They are not producing, but they are not supporting the farmers. They're looking to get into the market, and they're looking to monopolize the market. And the country is controlled by the government. And when the government in that thing, we know what will happen to us. So Dominica, market now is a threat. Costa Rica, Santo Domingo, St. Vincent and St. Lucia produces the same thing like Dominica, and they are our main competitor. And then we talk about Santo Domingo prices is very low, but the communities can't compete with ours. So that is the situation we are in now. I know we are under a lot of pressure. When the farmer is under pressure, the export is under pressure. And that is because the administration is not concerned about developing the poor people, and more pressing them for a vote and to buy them. And our country is not going anywhere because of that. So we are missing key thing in our country. Our prices, we might be priced out of the market because of what is going on out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Prevo. And Mr. Prevo, the caller is very correct. Dexia is using the $5 million given to it by government to literally compete with the existing Hoxas. They were in Anguilla, they were in Antigua, competing in the same market. Dexia needed to look for extra regional markets in Miami and Florida, and so on, in England. But they are pricing the local Hoxas out of the market. And Mr. Prevo is also correct. Government needed to step in and assist the farmers. He's correct with the fertilizer. A big bag of fertilizer is literally $50 compared to $75 for a small bag in Dominica. So we are at a disadvantage. Even the empty cartons is about $2 or so more expensive in Dominica than St. Lucia. So we are at a big disadvantage, the farmers in Dominica, and even the Hoxas that put money in the pockets of thousands of farmers on a weekly basis. The government need to step in, and that is what the United Workers' Party is, why we are investigating agriculture, so that when we get in there, we will know all of the challenges facing farmers and we will deal with it head on. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mr. PRO. We have another caller. Caller, you're live.
Yeah.
Caller, you're live.
Yeah.
Caller.
Hello?
Hello. Caller, you're live. You're live. Yeah. Workers' Voice in Q95.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night to you, sir.
Good night.
Errol, Koso, Steve, my partner Lambo.
Good.
And all the other people. Very good program. I think agriculture is the main thing we have to talk about. I just saw that the St. Vincent government is now getting $1.3 million from the Indians to further develop the agriculture, the arrowroot production. And it's sad to know that we are around the area, OECS and so on. And I would like to call it cassava. Cassava is a thing in the developed area. In fact, I got Mr. Prevo, and he's a man who normally asking for cassava. At the time we used to sell cassava, we should get about $5 a pound. Now it's more expensive now. But nobody ever ordered about cassava. We do little thing, but not anything too much. I believe the rural areas and a number of persons, like my wife, used to do cassava. But because she didn't have the proper equipment and so on, and then we don't have anybody, we just say cassava, but nobody really helping us to continue to do our production. So while we move from bananas and so on, we could do cassava on some of these areas, the hillsides and so on, and do cassava. I believe that there's need for a cassava business to really move into gear. And also, again, I want to stress the need for irrigation. And that's what I really talk about that all the time, and Steve's mentioned about that too. If you don't have water, we can't do. I see they're doing. Imagine they're doing Irish potato in low areas like our area down here, and they have I call it Irish potato We start working somewhere in March. People planting in March. When you have to reap them is around that time. They now planted in March in no area like ours. They may be doing well in Loda and perhaps uh, Eurodale and so on. But to do that, I think I tried Irish water once, and the shrinkage and the loss I got, and the trial, I don't believe in dry conditions, because don't make any difference. So irrigation in this part, and you all know where I'm talking about, and even not only my road, all around, we need irrigation, we need the equipment, we need everything. And in Calabash especially, we had equipment in place and the money spent and so on, and nobody allow or nobody say anything. It died down on us. The government sat down there, it's dying down on us, and all the instruments and all the equipment are rotting away. It's rather sad. Okay, gentlemen, but you have a very good topic. Good night, Dr. Thompson, and all the others. Good night, sir. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, sir. Good night. Good night.
Now we're gonna get into our guest who has been waiting there, agriculturalist, and he has been in the agriculture business for years. And we are really going to be looking at agricultural infrastructure and the way forward, because you will recall that we have started this program and we have been concentrating on agriculture. And I remember my colleague Soso really explaining that, yay, when it comes to agriculture, it's a wide topic, and that is why it is so wide and it encompasses so much different and various sectors. We need maybe months to speak agriculture. And of course, Dr. Thompson Fountain, alongside the PRO, have articulated the policies as it relates to various sectors and how we would do things differently. You heard the political leaders speaking of the abattoirs and what may have gone wrong. And we cannot continue to be injecting money in everything that has failed, but you cannot give us a reason why it has failed. It's failed because your policy and your procedures needs to be reevaluated, and it must be a people's abattoir. And that is why I believe that the United Workers' Party is going to build a road to agriculture. When I say build a road, meaning that it's going to take agriculture and make it a pillar for the economy, and to see growth and to see pickups buying like crazy, because the farmers can now do it. Now, without no further ado, I would now call on Mr. our guest for this evening, who is going to talk on the infrastructure, agriculture, and the way forward.
So before this, let me just give you an introduction to our guests. I mean, agriculture continues to be a major, it plays a very important role in respect to the processes in our economic development. And notwithstanding, we have to take a look at various aspects of this very important sector. And so the infrastructures are very important. And so we have with us tonight Mr. Errol Emmanuel. But let me just tell you straight that the background of Mr. Emmanuel has been the production services manager of the Dominica Banana Producers Limited. He has been the manager of the DAPEX company, Dominica Agricultural Producers and Exporting Company. He himself has been a practicing farmer. He sat on a number of boards and really given a lot of advice. And I will tell you something, this man has a wealth of experience. In fact, some years ago, over 2 decades, he actually was part of a mission that went to Taiwan to observe some of the agricultural techniques that were being expressed and were being showed to the Dominican people. And notwithstanding, he's just so enormous. And so tonight is a pleasure to have Mr. Errol Emmanuel with us tonight. Mr. Emmanuel, welcome to this program.
Thank you so for your introduction. Those who know me know like that I like to stay below the radar and carve my niche.
Yeah.
And when
I'm glad we got you out. Yes, come on. It's happy to have you.
when Soso give you that type of introduction, then he heightens the expectation from our audience. Let me once again welcome all those who are listening to this program, my sisters in the United States, my friends, Dr. Lloyd, one of our soil scientists who's no longer with us in Dominica. Again, one of our top brains, soil scientists at the PhD level had to leave and seek greener pastures. And so let me say good night to Dr. Lloyd. I know his heart is in Dominica and his heart is with agriculture. I'm happy that your party over the past few weeks have been focusing on agriculture because, like I said in my introductory remarks, agriculture appears to have been a bastard child for some time. And it is almost like what the old people say when you egwa, when you're ungrateful. Because those of us who know and are aware of what agriculture did over the past 50 years in Dominica, when the great late Edward Oliver Libla came on the scene and he recognized that the small farmers needed land because their only way out after working on the big estates was to have their plot of land. And having land by itself will not deliver the goods. And he recognized that if farmers have land, then the appropriate infrastructure had to be in place so that the farmers could go to and from their farms. And Mr. Libla began the whole question of feeder road programs all over the country. And to his blessed memory, some of the roads that he may have cut are probably still existing, but maybe in an abandoned state. The PRO, Mr. Steve, from the Wesley area, like many know that there are hundreds of miles of road between the Wesley Heights taking you all over to the Woodford Hill area. Many Dominicans don't know that. They pass through Wesley and then they go to the next village. But investments, appropriate investments was made in the road infrastructure to ensure that farmers could go to their farms, to bring in the necessary inputs that is required to care for the farm. The crop they grew had a certain agronomy treatment, agronomical treatment and care that had to go with it. And so they had to bring in the inputs so that they could get the product. The product then become the output. But even if you plant and you grow and you do not have the road to bring out your product to the market, then you would have probably just taken a sweat or you'd be involved in something as a hobby. We want our Dominican farmers to again approach agriculture not just as a hobby, although it is therapeutic and it has health benefits, but it has to be a business approach to agriculture. It has to be about livelihoods. It has to be about what it used to be. And so the whole question of infrastructure refers to the structures that facilitate and the systems that contribute to the functioning of a country. With the absence of infrastructure, you do not have a country that can function. And so good infrastructure is directly linked to the economy, to development, and to growth. Bad infrastructure is, in fact, the opposite of that. And I'm not here to criticize. As a professional, I just want to give my views. And so I've been involved in one or two programs, and it took me to some of the old catchment areas I knew in Bananas, and I was appalled to see the state and the condition of those roads. I was appalled to see the amount of acreages that have been abandoned. Places I knew that cars once went to. Not even a four-wheel drive you would want to put on those roads. And so it tells you that we've neglected the infrastructure that is one of the cogs in terms of supporting agriculture and supporting a dynamic economy. So the whole question of infrastructure, you have roads, you have bridges, you have seaports, you have airports, you have uh, power supplies, you have water and sanitation systems, all this combined to make you live in a country that you can enjoy life. And with the absence of those things, when they do not function, when you do not have roads like what is existing with the people in Petit Savan and the Dailies today, I recall as an officer responsible for farm certification on the island, when the farmers or the extension officers would send in the request that a farmer has met the requirement for farm certification, my responsibility was to go on the farm and do an audit. And I recall the days that I would leave my home 6:30, go up to Grand Bay, and from Grand Bay I would continue to Daly Seas because there was road connectivity. I could from Grand Bay I could drive all the way to Petit Savan. From Petit Savan I could go to the next district, which was Daly's, and I would end my day way back down in the Kalinago territory. So I would do that whole southeast area in a day to ensure that farmers get certified on time because they would get a little incentive, 2 cents or so more pound. And I don't want to know that I am the cause that they would sell this week and didn't get the money. And that could only happen because there was the infrastructure. A government realized there was a bottleneck in terms of connectivity between Petit Savan and Delices, and they took a bold decision. I remember having to drive through the river many times to go on farms in the Point Milat area until a bridge came and then road came. And then the farmers there, they 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 did more investment, they expanded because they're now comfortable that they now have the road that can accommodate their farming activities. So if we're talking about infrastructure, things like a pack house is a key thing a farmer must have. We had a hurricane. Did we in the 54, $58 million from the World Bank, did we have a serious farm infrastructure support so that the farmers who continued farming would have a pack house that meets the certification standards? And I'm not talking from the top of my head. I did an activity, a consultancy, and one of the results I discovered is that there was 70% of the farms that I was referenced to audit that did not meet the pack house certification standards. They did not have things like farm toilets. They did not have um, the packing area. They did not have storage facilities. And if we are going to be farmers who are going to be certified to tell the world that we are providing and producing safe food for them, this infrastructure must reside on the farm. A farmer must have a pack house. A farmer must have a storeroom. A farmer must have a pesticide storage so that he stores his chemicals away from packaging material, away from fresh produce. And it pains me sometimes to see where we were and where we have been as far as farm certification is concerned. I'll tell you a story about Tesco supermarket, one of the leading supermarkets in the UK. Tesco did a visit to the Windward Islands, and when they came to Dominica and they saw the systems that Dominica had, we at the DBPL at the time, when they saw the systems that we had, a lady by the name of Lara Elpido, she just decided she's going to make Dominica be the supply source for Tesco supermarket off the bat. And it was a prestige to know that Tesco could select Dominica farmers and the bananas as the main supplier to their supermarket. Now, when you have a produce that you can produce to compete at that level, it tells you that you have a system. And for that system to work, and for us to have achieved that, the necessary investment in the farm infrastructure was necessary. And so there was the days when we had people with or we transitioned from people cutting bunches and treating and wrapping, and then there was the boxing plant situation, and then we move into what was called the fill pack, where you would take your boxes with your crown pad and you'd pack your boxes. All this created interest in the industry, but then we realized that we were having issues with crown rod and other things, and so we move into what we call a mini wet pack in that you brought a plant on the farm, but is a smaller operation. So you would have your packer, you'd have your person the handling for you, you'd have people carrying, and we design a pack house that could meet the international standards. We had a concrete floor, it had appropriate protection from the rain and the sun and so on. We specially designed tables so that the farmers could sort. The short fingers were going in a separate box, the other lengths were going in a standard box. We designed a table, a packing table with a scale so the farmer would weigh, and because the box had to be standardized as far as weight was concerned. And so for all that to happen, the infrastructure investment had to be made. And it was a PP kind of approach, a private and public partnership in doing that. In that we provided the farmers with cement, we provided them with anchor bolts, we provided them with the galvanized and so on. And the farmer would provide his labor, and he would provide his 4x4 uprights and so on. And we executed that program nicely so that farmers could be certified and continue to earn their livelihood at the highest level in the market. We also ensured that they had a place in the pack house for eating, because you could not eat for sanitary purposes. You could not eat food where you pack in the product. And so we had all those things in place. We had toilets, we had hand wash facilities, we had pesticide disposal pits, and all these things were because of our own creative minds. Because when you read the standards, and it tells you what you have to do, those standards were designed for large operations, not 2 and 3 acre farms. But we read and we tailor made it that it could meet all the requirements. The pesticide store, for example, the pesticide store, they tell you it has to be lockable. So we decide we take a metal drum, we cut it, we put hinges, we put a aspen stable on it and a padlock. It became lockable. It must have a sign. We printed a sign, we placed on the door. It has to have ventilation. The 45-gallon metal drum, on top of it have a hole. We unscrew that cap, and it has to be able to contain a fire 30 minutes after the fire starts, so that people can move away if you have dangerous chemicals burning and so to safety. The fire can be contained within a metal drum for 30 minutes. So simple like that, instead of going into very expensive concrete pesticide stores, we met the standards by just being creative and thinking of how we can meet standards at a minimal cost. I had the opportunity to do a presentation in Cuba at an ISO conference with 32 countries, and I did a presentation on certification in Dominica. And even the people from the Windward Islands were so excited about the creative ways in which we approach our farm certification. So the whole question of infrastructure is critical. Moving forward in agriculture, we must have cold storage facilities for cold chain management. When you harvest a fruit, the quicker you can remove the field heat from it and set it at the right temperature, the longer your shelf life for that product is going to be. For example, there's a tremendous opportunity in breadfruit. In fact, as I'm talking about breadfruit, I just showed that to Mr. Coffee a while ago, that in Jamaica, they're not talking agriculture and just putting money anywhere. 3,000 acres of ackee, breadfruit and mango to be planted in South St. James in Jamaica. They're already making $30 million from ackee exports in Jamaica. $30 million US from ackee exports. You mean to tell me the Jamaicans are so much more brilliant than us? We are not that brilliant. That we cannot send our children to be trained as food technologists. We cannot send our children to be trained in soil conservation, in water management, in nutrient management. What are we a cursed people? No, when you see, and Jamaica is a country we should look at closely, because they have developed their cottage industry sufficiently that they combine their resources. And when you go to New York and these countries, everywhere you go, you see something Jamaica. You see something Jamaica. It's because these people believe in themselves. And so we must recreate an agricultural sector that will give farmers a belief in themselves. We can do that. We can produce. We can compete at the highest level. We will have irrigation that is sustainable, not just to say we put irrigation on the ground, but we will design an irrigation plan that will also not just bring water to the farm gate of the farm, but we will design low cost loans that the farmers can then take a small loan to buy the lines so he can have the laterals running through his farm. So having water at your farm gate and not having the lines to take the water to the plants where it really matter really cannot cut it for you. The whole question of proper transportation. Reefer containers are critical in terms of transporting your produce from point A to point B, because there's something called cold chain management. And you do not want for something to be at a certain temperature and then you take it out and then it goes down and it goes up. That is going to give you problems in the quality output of that product. So when that product do reach the buyer send and tell you, look, that I have X problem, I have discoloration of the skin, I have all sorts of problems, and then you lose money. But if you put the right infrastructure in place, breadfruit is a crop that I have done some work in breadfruit in 2015 where we brought in some varieties. We need to relook breadfruit as a crop. Breadfruit, apart from being a crop, the carbon sequestration of breadfruit because of the number of leaves it sheds that can be stored in the soil is enormous when we're talking about the whole question of climate smart. So breadfruit is a crop we can look at, but we need to develop the appropriate technology to teach our farmers when best to harvest breadfruit, what time of the day, when it is cooler, it is better, and to ensure that as soon as that breadfruit is harvested, you get it to a cold bath. So immediately you extract the field heat from it, you normalize the temperature in it, and then you put it in a cold storage facility with the appropriate packaging. These are opportunities. I am saying that my background is really bananas, but even on my small farm, I experienced with growing over 20 something different crops. Because an intercrop system is what makes farming exciting. So when one crop is done, you have another crop. I remember in 2007, Hurricane Dean, my bananas flat. Praise God, I had a lot of dashing. I sold dashing, black is white, to pay my workers to help rehabilitate the farm. So the mix of crops we choose for agriculture is going to be critical. But a farmer must have the confidence that when he leaves his home to go to his farm, he haven't got to stop taking stone to put in a road and taking his digger to take out soil to full up a part of the hole where he cannot pass because that road has been so neglected. We're talking about an agriculture that have to be climate smart. We all know what is happening. The weather now is much more intense. Hurricanes are more frequent and much more deadly. Those of us who survived Maria knows. This is the reality we lead. We're right in the hurricane belt. So we have to choose a mix of crops. I think personally that we have an advantage with tree crops. Okay. But it also offers us the opportunity to grow a range of other exotic crops. So we can have bulk crops to sell, but we can also have exotic crops that will fetch us the best type of price. So with the mix of high price and mid-range prices, when you combine it, agriculture can then become something viable. We have we have research being done, and with the IT that is being done now, you have new technology. You have drones that are being used in farming now that can assist with information, data collection that can inform the farmer as to what is the water levels instead of just irrigating. You have apps that can tell you and let you know, inform you as to what it is. The soil moisture content, the nutrient content, whether the nutrient is sufficient or whether these are things that are going to excite our young people. Coconut is an industry that we cannot neglect. Coconut oil was once put aside and said that it wasn't good. And but with appropriate science and research, it is proven that these things were false. And we have coconut oil. We see how quick we bounce back. I want to commend all the coconut traders who are now bottling coconut and providing coconut for us. So instead of buying some other type of imported drinks, we can have our fresh coconut water to drink. The young men likes to ride. We have to think of having ATVs in this coconut farm so they can go collect, because the collection of the dry coconut is intensive if we have to do coconut oil. But a young man would like to know, Lambi, he have his little ATV under the farm and doing his thing and carrying his coconut. And at the end of the day, he carry 2,000-3,000 coconuts, put that in a central location. We look at more advanced the husking equipment, and we get ourselves going. This is who we are. We cannot divorce ourselves from agriculture. Agriculture is who we are. It is what made us. I'm a personal witness of how agriculture transformed the rural economy, transformed livelihoods, transformed the way people's houses used to be. People that once had a little wooden house, and because of the money that was coming from their farming, they could break down a piece of wood and add a little piece of wall, and then eventually they have a complete wall house. And they did that independently with a sense of pride and purpose. They send their children to school. They paid their bosses for their children to go to school. They bought their children school books. They send their children to, things are not the same, but that doesn't mean there isn't money to still be made from agriculture. Within the region, we have a food deficit. Within the region, the food deficit is 60 to 80%. The war between Russia and Ukraine showed us in a clear way how vulnerable our food security system in the Caribbean, including Dominica, is, particularly dealing with wheat. Everybody like bread, who do it in white flour, eating whole wheat bread, but they eating bread.
That's correct.
And when the big people up there fighting their war and wheat becomes scarce, you think you will be the first choice they're going to give to bags of flour?
That is true.
So what about our cassava? I heard a caller talk about cassava. There's a young man around Roseau doing cassava products, cassava saltfish, cassava ginger. We need to complement them, and we need to replicate that type of person. The cassava is much more healthy than the white flour we eat in. Promote what we have.
Yeah.
I remember introducing Toloma to the purchasers of the Supercenter in Barbados. Supercenter is one of the biggest supermarkets in Barbados. They now under Massey. They have 3 or 4 major supermarkets. These people used to take 2 containers of fresh produce from us. And let me say that Dominica must recognize that we have certain advantages. While visiting that supermarket, I saw on their shelf Dominican pink grapefruit. I started chuckling because I know it's something. So I asked the buyer, did you get that from Dominica? He laughed. He told me, no, Mr. Emmanuel, you see, Dominica, we used to get pink grapefruit from Dominica in the past. and the quality was so good, so we used it as a selling point. We saying it's Dominica pink grapefruit. We can recognize the value of what we have.
Right.
And it is time for us to recognize the value for what we have. The Bible says when God gives you a gift and you don't go and sow it, he will come and he'll take back that one gift he gave you, a talent, and he will give it to somebody he gave free that is using their free. So I don't know if you all want me to say more, but I
Emmanuel, no. I mean, I guess we can come in there, and continue to engage you.
Yeah, let me
But
just
listening to you, man, I can tell you that is why we're doing this. That's why we're doing this, because we understand. And as you're talking, we're taking notes. We are recording this because that is going to form the basis. As I said, we're involved in in planning for the future. We are not just on this program because we have nothing better to do. We are there because we care deeply about the people of Dominica. And because we care about the people of Dominica, that's why we're putting agriculture as the number one thing. And we want to make the solemn promise to the people of Dominica that we will resurrect the agriculture industry in Dominica. We'll resurrect the agriculture sector. And as you talk about what is required, the different things that are required, the infrastructure, the feeder roads, the irrigation systems, and so on. What that tells me is that there is a role for government, a role that government can play in support of. Okay, so that you build the roads, you build the infrastructure, you build the feeder roads, you mentioned the cold storage facilities, the pack houses, the pesticide storage and so on. You build the seaports, and so it is all of that supporting the farmer so that the farmer can focus on growing his produce, you know, excellent produce that we can now export. And then you talk about this huge hole that has been left in the region. The region continues to really beg for our produce. I saw it in Martinique. People cannot get enough of Dominica produce. They cannot get enough. They will take anything that we give them from Dominica. I saw it again in Barbados when I studied in Barbados. I remember when I used to go and buy my Bello passion fruit juice. If you don't get there quickly enough, by the time you come, it's gone. People will buy in that like hotcakes. And the people of the Caribbean recognize the quality products that come from Dominica. And I'm saying that we can build an economy on agriculture. We don't need necessarily to have the sale of passports. St. Vincent is a great example of this. And that's why I admire the St. Vincent government for what they are doing for their people. St. Vincent made it very clear that they would not go down the route of selling their passports. Ralph comes out and says he wants absolutely nothing to do with that. He believes in the sanctity of the citizenship. He will not sell his part. But what is he doing? He's building up his agriculture sector. He's building up his people because people are employed in agriculture. Now St. Vincent is taking some of the slack. They're exporting to Barbados, they're exporting to St. Lucia, they're exporting all the way up north. They're exporting dashin, they're exporting marijuana, they're exporting plantains, they're exporting all of those things that we would normally be exporting. So there is a path forward, and that is why we want to really tonight. And I'm glad you really put the focus squarely on the way forward, because that's what we are concerned about. Yeah, we had those great days in the past. We are happy for them, but importantly for us is looking forward. How do we transform? How do we translate? How do we get from where we are? And I really want to thank you for that very powerful insight, and then also what that shows, we have the expertise that we need. We have this homegrown expertise that is there. We've lost some, as you said, Dr. Lloyd, is now giving his services elsewhere. But I'm sure when we begin to organize and reorganize, people like Dr. Lloyd will come back because we'll find a place for them. We'll find a place for our professionals who have learned, who have gone to school in agriculture and who want to contribute to Dominica's development. So I can tell you, man, I'm a very happy man tonight listening to you, Errol. I thank you for coming
Yeah.
out. I thank you for sharing the experience with us and sharing that expertise with us and with the rest of Dominica.
And Dr. Fogden, interestingly, I sat there and I felt like I was in a class. I started taking notes like crazy because I think it's not just the topic and the depth of it, but it's the way that our guest, Mr. Emmanuel, is bringing the information. He's breaking it down into practical examples that we can understand, that we are not doing what we're supposed to do. The the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and the Blue Economy in the estimate 2023-2024 estimate, in the overview of the report says that the agricultural sector has traditionally contributed up to 30%. of natural output in the early 1980s, throughout which it has been historically defined as the primary production of crops, livestock, forestry, and fisheries to include food and non-food processing of agriculture produce at the micro and small scale level. Now, they went down further in the overview and it says, however, the economy has transitioned from agriculture and agro-industry to a high-value service sector, exposing economic vulnerability and compounded by frequent and increasing catastrophic natural disasters, etc., etc., etc. But all I have to say is this. I have been trying to go or to look at the overview, look at the budget 2023-24, trying to kind of understand where is all those words I'm seeing in there, where is it around us?
Well,
So talk to me.
well, let me just say, this government has that habit, and by the way, they are good in putting things in what I call an encyclopedia of good intentions. An encyclopedia of good intentions.
That's a nice way to put it.
So that is all that will be there is on paper. But let me just congratulate Mr. Emmanuel for that resounding and in-depth analysis of things which transpired before, things which are so much relevant today, and things that we can continue to do in a more modern way. And as we say that, it shows us that an agricultural policy is very important with respect to guiding us where we want to go. And just as I look at the screen, I saw somebody put soil acidity, and it reminds me very much of what we used to do at the DBPL and in the past. What we used to do is to do we have to conduct annual, what they call take samples, tissue. We take samples of leaves and we take samples of the soil and we send it to package it properly, get the soil dried, and send it overseas for what they call tissue analysis and even soil analysis. So the tissue analysis will give us tell us of exactly the nutrient deficiency in the leaves of that plant, of the banana plant, and it also tells us the nutrient deficiency in the soil. So combining these two aspects, you know what is happening. We get recommendation to guide the farmer accordingly with the precise fertilizer recommendations so that we can get productivity. The point is that we always have to look at being results oriented. Results oriented is very important because, as I said, it's a talk shop. For them, it's a talk shop. Once they put something on paper, we're always going to do. And as we talk about infrastructure, I remember the statistics, they are there. And what it is saying right now for our roads right now, when they did a survey on the road, right, they had about 905 kilometers of road measured. Out of that, 320 kilometers were main roads, and the remaining 585 kilometers were either secondary roads combined with feeder roads and also urban areas, urban road. But here, what is important, in terms of the main road, only 25% of that were in good condition, and the remaining 75% were bad. Now, because our emphasis on agriculture, and we have feeder roads in the second class, which means that, you know what is the record? Out of the 585 kilometers of road described as feeder roads combined with the other roads, only 2% were in good condition. It tells you that 90%, 98% of our roads, our feeder roads, are in totally bad condition. But what is important, after the government ran a survey, and they talk about a road repair policy or road repair sector they want to do, they had a target in 2015 to move from that 25% to have had at least 60% of our main roads repaired. Can anyone say we have that? We have not achieved that. They went further to say in 2020, when we would have accomplished the 60% in 2015, we would have moved forward to get 100% of our main roads completed. More to that, in 2017, in 2015, the 2% we had that were in good condition, we had to target the 98%. And the aim there at the time was to bring it up to 30%. After that, in 2020, they put a new timeline with, a rolling time frame of 10 years, If after 15 years, the same feeder road they talk about that's supposed to move from 2%, from 2% to 40%, and subsequent to that 30% to 100%, we have seen more degradation of our roads. Our roads are in a state of disrepair, and that is why that in itself will have an adverse effect on quality. And so we are saying, given the statistics, it tells us that we have work to do, and we have plenty work to do, because the government has had an opportunity during Maria and the time when they were dredging the river. We recommended at least if they had put on what they call mini crushers in various sites, they could have crushed stones and get those stones dumped on feeder roads, enhancing the quality of the road. So they have missed this opportunity. So I wanted to make that point and to support Dr. Thompson to say, look, there are things that are very much relevant of what Mr. Emmanuel said that we can continue to do to enhance our culture.
Just and this one is to our guest, and I know he may have some more contribution to make, but this is the one that I am interested in too, because and we spoke about it in the last program. How do we, and I heard you made an example about it, or you spoke about it in that sense about the youth. How do we get young people to understand that this is the way forward? This is the kind of industry they should get into. What are the various what do you call, and you said it good, young person going on a farm, having a nice computer car or something to drive, and being excited to pick up this and to pick up that. I think this is what I would like you to just share some light on this, because although the lines are going crazy, so go ahead, Mr. Inan.
Yes. The whole question of what to interest people, we have some work to do, because the experience over the last couple of years have not embedded in us the importance of hard, smart work to get results. And so you have to make a major paradigm shift in the mentality of our young people.
Okay.
We have to introduce them to what it is to be independent, and what it is to work for your money, and what it is to pay your own mapping and your own dawa school.
Excellent.
And to pay your own mortgage. We have to reorient them in that. But
because that has been lost, technically.
Right. But we also have to let them know that some of the things that they like, the technology, increasingly they say that the next agricultural revolution are going to be IT driven. And there are a lot of people that are already preparing for it. So we ourselves, we have to see what opportunities that new agricultural revolution presents us with, so that we do not fall too far behind. You talk about cannabis. The lead cannabis researcher and the man that in charge of cannabis research in Jamaica is a Dominican. Wow. He knows about excellent strains of cannabis in Dominica, but is he utilized? Is he used as a consultant in terms of looking at what are the possibilities we can do? There are people who have relations in Antigua, who have relations in Dominica, who are involved in the legislation and so of the cannabis system over there. But are we moving out? And so when you have an industry, for example, like cannabis, that is projected to be over $127 billion by 2027, and what we're talking about is giving a man a 28 grams and free trees, it is telling us that we are just myopic and short-sighted in our view, because we do not understand what rural development is. And that's the fundamental point.
All right, thank you. We have a...
Very good.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. Just before we go to the telephone, Mr. Steve, our PRO, any comments before we go to the telephone?
Yes. I want to join. I think it was so spoke about the road conditions, because it is amazing that under 4 years, over the past 4 years, the Wesley constituency had a PAL rep that was first the agriculture minister and now communications and works minister. And the 5 major roads in the Wesley Woodford constituency, namely the Simpa Road, the Jackmore Road, the Woodford Hill Constant Spring Road, and the Mambry to Lacqua Road is in a terrible state of disrepair. So it is unfortunate, while we have a senior government minister in charge of governance in the Wesley constituency, all the roads are bad. And I want to highlight the fact that Mr. Emmanuel mentioned the Petit Savan to Daly's Road. That tells you the vision of the United Workers' Party. Over 20-something years ago, when we were in government, we recognized the importance of infrastructure. We recognize that when you build a road to connect one community with another, not only will agriculture benefit, but tourism will benefit, education will benefit, health will benefit. That is why I want to take this opportunity to commend the United Workers' Party for joining Petit Savan to dailies. I want to also take this opportunity to talk about our car raffle. I want to take this opportunity to say thanks to the sponsor of the radio program. If it wasn't for you, probably wouldn't have started the time we start. And I want to call on others to join to ensure that they assist the party, they assist the patriots in ensuring that the people of this country can hear the other side that they are not hearing on the other radio stations. I want to say thanks to our party groups in Dominica and outside. I want to mention the Centroid group that continues to make a contribution towards the running of our organization. I want to say thanks to the supporters in the various constituencies. I had a discussion with a young lady just this morning while I was on my project about the Portsmouth constituency, and I'm excited that we are going to have further discussions. So yes, all of our foot soldiers, some of us even stronger than we in the national executive when you talk about your party, because you understand the vision the United Workers' Party has. You remember what we did in government. That is why we have our programs to remind and to tell you what we plan to do moving forward. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can, the lines are open now. 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. Overseas line 305-432-9624. You are in tune and you're cued to the workers' voice and our special guest, Mr. Emmanuel. Caller, you're live.
Greetings, brothers.
Greetings.
Sound like Thompson Fountain in the house.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought you were in Sudan. I call you so Rosso and the entire crew. Greetings.
Don't forget Coach
To the
Lambi.
program tonight. Lambi's the boss. Lambi, if it wasn't for Lambi, I couldn't even come on. So thank you, Lambi. Thank you so much. Yeah, but I was saying, like, listening to the program tonight, I mean, we all know and admit the importance of agriculture, the role agriculture playing our development in Dominica. I always maintain agriculture is always the foundation. But all these challenges we have, for me, the greatest challenge is to make sure farmers get money in the pocket. Nothing cannot mobilize the people quick and fast and more than money. And that's one of my main issues, because you cannot tell me a farmer working from 6 or 7 in the morning for what time they decide to leave. They clean the land, they prepare the plants, and then when come to harvest, they cannot get money. And so you are right. Result is one of the main things. They say result don't count, or result not important, or performance not important. But we want result. Result is very important, and the result is that to bring money in people's pockets. No matter all this fancy language, and yes, we know agriculture is a wide range of areas you could cover. Infrastructure, as one of the guys said, roads, water, even electricity. Because we're in 2024, and in these times, a lot of these machines operate on electricity. The road is a disgrace. So I was in Cuba last week when I was down there. My father died, I came down, then I visited Cuba.
Right.
I had a rental and decided to go up there. So the road bad.
Wow.
That is, nobody with a good mind will take out the vehicle and go and damage it, knowing that they cannot get the money to replace an axle or the differential or the engine. I mean, it's terrible. So we know the record of these Labour Party. This guy is just a bunch of rip-off. I mean, I'm not saying that on all your behalf. That's Bob Marley speaking. No, like
Thank you.
these guys are a bunch of rip-off. All they're doing is ripping off Dominica,
Thank you.
and no result. One set of people have all the money, and majority of the people balling struggling.
Thank you, caller. Thank you.
Okay, I've got it short because
Thank you.
I know
Because
another
caller, we
people
have
and another
the
people
lines are going like fast and furious.
All right, cool.
Caller, you're live.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Deputy.
Good evening,
Leader.
sir.
Good evening to the political leader, the PRO.
Hi.
Yes, my brother.
Lambi, and of course, Mano.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
evening.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
I was listening to you interestingly when you were talking about the breadfruit. And you know, there's so much we can do with our breadfruit. What I would like to find out from you, is there a new technology or any technology in place to harvest breadfruit? Because as you know, breadfruit trees in Dominica are very high, and also, and to harvest it, you'll have to get somebody to climb it to prevent it from dropping to the ground. So I would like to find out if there's any new technology in place presently to harvest the breadfruit. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller.
Not no new technology, is the same old principles of wanting to ensure you reach the breadfruit and it doesn't fall.
That's
Because once it fall, in our common language, we say
Blessed.
the breadfruit get blessed. And a breadfruit that get blessed doesn't have shelf life. Breadfruit is very, very sensitive in terms of the shelf life. And so the post-harvest management for breadfruit have to be tight. We brought in a variety, Ola Fula, whatever it was, in 2015. And the trees I saw so far that are bearing, they were bearing much shorter. But it is important that part of our agronomic practice of breadfruit is we have to look at pruning the tree so that it grows
Exactly.
but shorter. So these are some of the things we have to start to practice so that we can have easy access to the breadfruit tree. If you don't have a caller, let me just make a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the important infrastructure is reception centers. When the farmer harvests, he must take his fruit somewhere for inspection and so on.
All right.
And the other thing is pack houses. At the national level, what I see passing for our pack house is something we all cannot be proud of. I remember a former minister of trade told me that when officials come to visit, when officials come to visit, I take them to the old pack house, where we used to do the grapefruits.
And that's for a reason.
And that's for a reason, because where we should be now in terms of a pack house and having the appropriate cooling facilities there, we need to relook agriculture. We need to have data. We had a system called the Growers Outreach Management System, and it had the capacity to process, apart from bananas, probably 10, 12, 15 other products, different types of crops. It could capture data and history of the farmer. It could help with certification. It could help you with your forecasting. And we owned it jointly with Windfresh, and we offered it to them. And people seems to be always juxtaposing for turf when there are people who do have that interest. As a professional, my interest was, what can we do to have a system? Because I could go into meeting and I hear in the people who was in charge of statistics, God bless her, bless her memory, Mistress Primer, and she would say the only people that can give me a reliable data was the banana company.
That's correct.
And we cannot be in 2024 talking about agriculture and we don't have data capture. Data capture is a critical thing. It will be able to tell you what is the yield, what are the measurements of your yields, where you are, what you have to do. You need that type of data to go back to inform your policy and to guide you as to what are the next steps, what are the corrective measures. But we just 2024, we're still operating on guesstimates. And gentlemen, we can do better than that. There are brilliant men with the Ministry of Agriculture that can do the work.
That's correct.
Errol, a quick question to you. I'm sure more calls are coming, but a quick question. You mentioned about your preference, as it were, for citrus and so on. How long does it take a grapefruit tree from the time it's planted to the time it starts bearing,
But
approximately?
the last set of citrus trees I planted, I was surprised just after 3 years, I ended up getting
3 years.
citrus. And I didn't say citrus. I said tree crops.
Tree crops, yeah.
I
Tree crop.
recently
But I'm,
did.
I'm thinking pink grapefruit and grapefruit and so on as
Yes,
well.
yes.
But
3 4
yeah,
years you
so
think you should
three,
begin.
4 years you
Three
already
4 years
have.
you should begin
Wow.
to harvest. Um,
So if
I
you're
did.
gonna if you're gonna major replanting exercise, as we did for bananas at one time and coconuts at one time, if we were to go on that for citrus in particular, we could be a wash with grapefruits and so on in 3 to 4 years.
Dr. Fontaine, I just read for you what the Minister of Agriculture in Jamaica is saying. They are going to put down 3,000 acres in breadfruit in Aki. And what is the other one I said? And breadfruit. 3,000 acres. That is how you spur production. You have a project that have a lifetime, and you say
Right.
within 1 year we want to put down 800 acres. By the second year, we want to put down a 1,200, so it will be 2,000. And by the third year, we want to put another 1,000, so we have 3,000. Whatever crop you target, you have a project management system to implement it. So you have all the monitoring going on, all the inputs, all the support and the training that is required. So while you're doing that, you're starting to inform your market that we're going to be having X, Y, and Z that will be ready. We should be able to supply you with X amount of tons. And you have a market-led approach. You have your market people telling you what they want, and if what we have is not enough and we need to expand, then we continue expanding so that we can supply.
And Doc, it's also known too that you have pure stand of these things. When I say pure stand, you could have a pure orchard of let's say, grapefruit orchard. And you could also have mix. And what is happening before we used to sustain our citrus production very well when we had it interplanted with bananas. Because when you fertilize and you treat the bananas well, then the citrus thrive on the very nutrients that the bananas get. So you had that kind of interchange between the bananas and that the damn citrus, and you to get that continuous sort of production. Today, if you look around Dominica, if you came from Marigot and you drive, you would have not seen many citrus plantations, because that kind of whole vibes about the intercrop system has been lost. But yes, we can target to do pure stand orchards and maintain them well, prune them well, and to get the optimal result.
Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in tune with Workers' Voice with our special guest and the political leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, alongside Mr. Emmanuel, and the man Soso and our PRO. And all those who are listening, the lines are open again 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. The overseas is 305-432-9624. You can call us anytime.
Yeah, even if I would say something, even the avocado, in 4 years you can harvest avocado. I planted 70 something avocado 3.5 years ago, and they start bearing. And avocado have been classed as a superfood. I mean, all health challenges you they suggest avocado. So we can plant thousands of avocado seedlings and make money, allow the farmers to make money. I don't know why the government is afraid to invest heavily in recultivating the farmlands of Dominica. It is very amazing. Yeah.
Caller, you're live. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller, you're live.
Good night.
Yeah, caller, just reduce the volume on your radio. Reduce the volume on your radio for the feedback. Thank you.
It's all right?
It's perfect. Thank you for calling.
I'm not a farmer. I'm just an elderly lady. am living at the back of the hospital there. But what I see, many years I saw a breadfruit there, treated there, it grew tall. And what I noticed is the breadfruit, it makes a lot of breadfruit there. And if breadfruit and them are falling down, small breadfruit, they just fall down, boom, boom, boom. One being there, all the leaves falling down. So I would like to know what is the reason, not the first time I see it, but this year there, I just see it a lot. What I have around my house there was a fellow from Castle Bruce used to be underneath my house. He planted some seed there, and they used to call him Power Boy. And he's
Because
Ralph
of the
Austria.
breadfruit.
And the freak and them are growing nicely there, but you get a little thing, I've cut everything around. And it have one they call Calvan, it have this one, two different, and they growing nicely there. And I mean, this fig, when you feel that white and nice, while I see the fig yellow, brownish and there. So I just interested in listening to what happening there. But I would like to know more, why is the reason? And bread is so tall, and all the bread is falling down, every one by one.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for calling. It's Mr. Emmanuel.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good to make an assumption as to what's happening. From a scientific standpoint, it is always best to do a site visit, and then you can use your better judgment.
That's why.
I just want to say we did some work on cocoa recently on the Jeff Small Grant program, and the results were very promising. We did DNA, a fingerprinting analysis to determine as to what it is we have in the genes of our cocoa. And when we say we have fine flavor cocoa in Dominica, the samples we sent to the Cocoa Research Center in Trinidad did say that Dominica has fine cocoa, some of the finest. And we can actually use that as a selling point to expand our cocoa industry. So cocoa is another tremendous crop that the projection for the demand of chocolate or cocoa for the next is
Cocoa powder.
upward. In terms of the Chinese now have more money, they have an acquired taste. The Indians are people that have an acquired taste for nice things now. Chocolate is one of them. So there's tremendous opportunity all around.
Thank you, caller. You're live. Good night.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Or should I say honorable gentlemen? That sounds better, right?
You choose.
Fantastic. Agriculture, the one-time bedrock of the economy. When farmers did everything. As a matter of fact, Barclays Bank in Mali got closed because people were not taking loans, people were not borrowing. So Barclays Bank was just paying interest and, not really, they didn't see themselves, making the amount of money as they would have liked to. Because farmers were just depositing and getting interest. All right? And everybody was doing everything cash.
Yep.
Today, I mean, what really sometimes disturbs my mind is that in the rural areas where agriculture was king, that these farmers still support, some of them still support the government of the day. They still support this government today. I cannot understand that at all. What is happening to them? What can they see it? Can they see the writing on the wall? They have experienced the bad time that this government brought to them. They just affected their lives. So something has to be done. Something has to be done in the rural areas to really get these people to understand exactly why they are suffering that much today, that they can hardly even buy breakfast, lunch, and dinner to put on the tables for themselves and their families.
Thank you so much for your contribution, caller. Thank you. Now Mr. Emmanuel, the 2 hours is up almost. We could go for another 4 hours, but we have to wind down. And in the interest of time, we're gonna allow our guests to wind up. But before we do that, we're gonna take a last caller. Let me just be caller, you're live.
Yes, give thanks and praise for that, boy. That's the best call. Run, boy, you running? You okay? All right. Let me tell you something, my brother. Agriculture, culture. This is what we're talking about. Food on your table, money in your pocket, breakfast, lunch, and supper. You don't have to walk up no step for nothing. That's how I raise up. And I raise up running behind the truck, going by elbows and throwing down little orange, grapefruit, little passion fruit. And I was feeling content below to that. But you see, Taiwan taught me something as a youth man where China never taught me anything. And it's a scary. I warn you. They tell me I look in the trouble. I'm not looking in the trouble. I'm trying to advise you. Tell us why you put Taiwan on the side and you decide to run with the Chinese. Because Taiwanese, they was training Iran. They was giving us plans. They was giving us seeds. They was giving us everything. They taught the elderly with the land they have. Here comes something you can make money and also sell for the hotels, which was the prawns, the crayfish. Mr. Scary, you don't remember in all those kind of things, Mr. Scary. We had pawpaw like pawpaw. They said Taiwan is spoiling our pawpaw. We had grapefruit, passion fruit, tangerine, everything. No, it's more than time, Mr. Scary now. Why are you doing the children that? If we for girls, she's girls, and the other very favorite. My mother, Mr. Scary, is in me for soft drink. You understand? No, you sing the children for juice. No, when you ask them what juice you say a red one, which is a boss. Just come on the radio station. Speak to the people. Let them know what we have in Dominica is the best. We have this strong, this set of people in the world. That is what I study. We have the most talented athletes. We have the most talented bike riders. We have everything. All we need is facilities, opportunities, and Mr. Security is going to mash them up. Mr. Security, I go down on my knees tonight and I beg you, Mr. Security. Let Ronald Charles and whoever and the Sports Association deal with the Windsor Park and stop let it be a festival ground. Mr. Security, I beg you. Melissa, go down to your knees and tell Mr. Security, this is not the way that you raise up Melissa. Don't say in that. I don't care if you give me blows, but Mr. Security, in closing,
Caller.
I beg you in closing, Ronald, I beg Mr. Security and Melissa to go and clean the openings of the gardens where they spread us playing the basketball. That is what they give us. That is what
Yeah.
they take it.
Thank you.
Hell,
Thank
I
you.
will help. I will help to clean them.
Thank you,
They're
caller.
looking to untidy for tourists. Bye, fellas.
Thank,
Ronald, you're
thank you.
doing good.
Thank you,
Ronald,
caller.
what you're doing, boss, I tell you, God will give you your blessings for that. You see that bicycle thing that you're doing there, Ronald? Boy, we're going to make it so big in
Thank
Dominica.
you. Thank
God
you,
bless.
caller.
Bye-bye
And I
now.
hope you have your bike. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we have to do some rounding up now, and I will now call on Mr. Glenroy Soso Coffee for your final comments.
Yes, I think that's a question. A caller, well, she has a question regarding spice and nutmeg, and what are the prospects for these two crops. I think Dr. Thompson Fountain has been reiterating the whole thing about the market in Martinique and the demand that these crops attract in Martinique. So yes, these crops will be explored, and I think it's just a matter of looking at it, doing the necessary marketing analysis so that we can see what we can do. But yes, rest assured that we will be doing all crops. We will be looking at what is more profitable to us. Earlier on, I spoke about the abattoir, and I'm saying, based on how it is going now, the trajectory shows that we are just not making any progress. We are spending more than we are making. Right now, it is time to rethink how this abattoir should be run. I believe it should be in private hands. That is my own assessment of it. And government give the necessary incentive and to let private will take over so that the government will not, and let me just tell you one thing. I saw a list and there is a component they call it donations. And interestingly, when I saw this, Granby asking for money, how many pongs of meet every year and the various constituencies. I just find that is a problem. But let me say that rest assured, the United Workers' Party will will undertake some of what we have been saying that are very viable to develop our agriculture. We will be working with various partners and the youth. And so this forum is coming up, this platform where we have that economic platform, where it's going to have it very soon. And the leader will actually reiterate that. And so you'll hear the youth perspective on it because it's not about just talking and talking about the youth, but it's to get them involved. So I just want to say, Ronald, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Mr. Emmanuel, thank you for such resounding and in-depth analysis of these infrastructures that you've spoken about that could help us move our culture forward. Let me say, Mr. Leader, I'm very pleased to be in your company again. Steve, let me say good night to you. And rather looking forward for better things to come. And to all our listeners who have participated tonight, let me say thanks and good night.
Thank you. Thank you so. Mr. Steve Benjamin, our PRO, with closing remarks.
Yes, I want to say thanks to Mr. Emmanuel, Errol Emmanuel. I just like Peter Carbon, when I requested his assistance to come on the program, he did not hesitate. He didn't tell me, well, he will call me back. He stepped up to the plate and to the occasions. I want to tell him thanks. I want to also say thanks to teacher Ernie, Lawrence John Finn, who continued to present to us a beautiful prayer, keeping us closer to Christ. She is our candidate for the Castle Boost constituency. Education is by profession. So I want to say thanks to her. And I want to say thanks to our listeners who continue to look forward to our programs morning, noon, and night. I want to say thanks to the political leader who make time to assist behind the scenes in crafting the programs. I want to say thanks to the political leader, the deputy political leader, the same Ronald Charles, attorney at law, who a few weeks ago was elected the youth coordinator. If you notice, he always asks questions concerning the youth. So I want to congratulate him on being elected by the management committee to be the youth coordinator of our political organization. I want to say thanks to Soso, and Ronald have been a great help to ensure that the program continues to go on. And thanks to everybody and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel, our guest.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Charles. Let me thank like I started, thank the party, the leadership of the party for thinking that much of me and thinking that I probably have something to share.
You have a lot to say. We'll be calling you back.
So as agricultural infrastructure is something that sometimes is underestimated and under budgeted because people don't see the significance of it, but be it known that infrastructure plays a very vital role in productivity, in our competitiveness, and the sustainability of the agricultural sector. Because if after you cannot go to the farm because of a bridge or because of the road, then you cannot sustain the production. And so we must therefore, as a nation, not nothing, I didn't come there with no political hat. We must therefore, as a nation, be aware that inadequate agricultural infrastructure such as poor and inadequate farm feeder roads, insufficient storage capacity, insufficient cold chain facilities, limited access to markets, all contribute to post-harvest losses. These infrastructure gaps adds to the cost of production and it limits the ability of the farmer to get the best prices that he possibly can. And so let us as a nation recognize that we must continue to make investments in agriculture as a government because the farmers continue to make investments in agriculture. And so we should not see investment in agriculture as a one-off thing because a storm pass or because we give a duty free, but it must be continuous because the negative side of not supporting agriculture is a food import bill that we have where Dominica is importing $33.7 million worth of meats, $25.3 million worth of beverages,
Wow.
$25.5 million worth of cereals, $18.28 million worth of dairy.
Wow.
Fruits and vegetables, 15.26. Fish poisson, 5.46. Coffee and tea, the herbal garden of the Caribbean, Dominica, $3.42 million. So the import substitution bill, we must have a target to close that gap. We must be targeted in deciding and determine deliberately that we are going to close the food import gap by putting the necessary actions and policy in place. Thank you and good night to the listeners.
Thank you so much, and thank you for coming, and thank you for the education. I think after tonight, I'm going to replay this broadcast, and then I'm going to write a book with your permission. Now we'll now call on the political leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, with your closing remarks. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much. And to our special guest, Errol, thank you. You know, I long for the day when the 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 real estate in Dominica, the land that is so rich, that has been lying fallow for so long, will once again be able to spring forth in grapefruits, in oranges, in pawpaw, in
Breadfruit.
avocados, in breadfruit,
Mhm.
in soursop, in kashima, in mammy apples. You know, I was reading a document from the British Overseas Office written in, I think it was in 1961, and they were indicating that they will in that year 63 different crops were being grown in Dominica. 63 different crops, and a lot of those were actually finding their way back to the United Kingdom. And I cannot understand how in this year 2024, with the same amount of real estate, we cannot do the same thing. We cannot do the same planting. And there is so much money to be had. One of our listeners talked about essential oils, you know, the diverse flora with aromatic plants
Mhm.
that is so critical for producing oils for use in cosmetics, aromatherapy, perfumery. You know, I mean, the opportunities are endless. You know, when you think of the diversity with which we've been blessed, not only to do the tree crops and to do the toloma, the root crops, but also to do the essential oils thing, you know, the vetiver and the bay oil, bay leaf. You know, a couple of years ago, and I'll end with this, I was in a shop in Washington, D.C., close to the Pentagon. It's called the Pentagon Mall in Washington, D.C. And I saw this little bottle of probably 0.75 liters of Bayrum, but it was being sold as a aftershave. And they were selling it for 20, I think it was $27.85 or something in that range for 0.75 liter. It was in the exotic section. Somebody apparently found out that they could buy the Bayrum, the bay oil for $3 and something cents, put it in a new bottle, label it as exotic out of Dominica as an aftershave, and was selling it for like 27 US dollars in that store there in the United States. So these are the opportunities that we have. These are the opportunities that we can create wealth for our people. It can be exploited. The opportunities are still there. The desire for Dominican products is still there. The exoticness of the country, that we are so exotic, is still there, and we can do that. So I really want to thank you guys for really helping us think through this and for putting our minds together. More of that discussion will take place during the Economic Summit, Revival Summit, as we're calling it, Economic Revival Summit, scheduled for the 4th to the 6th of June. Uh, in Jungle Bay, you'll be hearing a lot more about this in the days and weeks ahead. We'll have individuals, I'm sure, persons like Emmanuel with his vast knowledge, but of course, be invited to talk to us and others with expertise to help us think through this, how we revive the Dominican economy, how we build on the pillars of agriculture, of tourism, of agro-processing, of the knowledge-based industries. So we will look at all the different aspects of the economy that will allow us to create opportunities, will allow us to take care of our young people, to provide for our young people, to make them dream again, to make them believe again, you know, and that is the kind of That's where we are. That's our thinking. That's our commitment to the people of Dominica. And I just want to thank all of you online that, always we have over 9,000 people normally who view our podcast. And let me say as well, if you miss it, if you miss our podcast, you can now get it. It is available. And please forward it to those who may have missed it. It's available. Just go to our website, uwp-dominica.com. It's very easy. UWP, but put a little dash, a little hyphen in between there. UWP-Dominica.com, and you click on the Workers' Voice, and you'll get all of the episodes there of the Workers' Voice as we move forward in this new dispensation. Thank you, Dominica. Thank you, guys. God bless you all. And we'll see you, of course, next week.
Thank you, Dr. Fontaine. Of course, we want to take this opportunity to say thank you to all the callers, our guests this evening. Today is the 11th of April 2024. It was a wonderful program looking at agriculture and more in agriculture to come. We want to take this opportunity to thank all those that are listening, our trusters, Mr. Edison James, of course, Mr. Prevo, Ms. John Finn. Thank you, guys, our president. Thank you for listening. And all of our caretakers, Monel and Teacher Ernie and Seeker Joseph and Rosie Emmanuel, Mr. Basil, and of course, Ned Packett, and all those who are listening. If I miss a name, don't worry too much. Marcus Roman, Dave George, and of course, Clement Marcel, and all the rest of the team listening and being part and parcel of this wonderful program. We're going to bring it to an end this evening. We want to say thank you so much for coming. And of course, thank to my coach, Mr. Lambe. Thank you so much for spending time here and assisting and making all this happen. We are with you always, the Workers' Voice. And here we say so long, everybody, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Get together and be all right. It wasn't the beginning. One love.
Yeah, man, thanks.
And I feel all right. Let's get together and be all right. Let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. One. When the night comes, there will be no doom.